Welcome back. You're watching On The Sport, and tonight our guest, of course, is the Executive Director of KCCA. But before we go into the debate, let's take you back to a poll question for this evening. We're asking, is Musisi doing a good job in managing Kampala? So do send us your text to 8778 with your yes or no answer, and we will bring you the poll result towards the end of this show. Madam, I want to quickly move through the stuff we have, because the last time you were here, we didn't finish our program, and then people have continuously asked for you to come back. Let's quickly finish infrastructure. We have a problem here in the city. Every time it rains, and even when it just rains for an hour, you seem to have solved the clock tower, but you haven't solved Ginger Road. What are your plans in solving Ginger Road and some parts of industrial area when it comes to drainage?
I think one key component of solving this problem is understanding where it's coming from. And this is from a multiplicity of sources. One, the drainage system was built for a city and a population much, much smaller than the one we have now. Number two, a lot of the Kampala city has been built up. Green areas have been sold off, parks have been built on. There's hardly any green where there should have been green. So what happens is that when it rains, there's a lot of surface runoff of the buildings and of the pavements and paved areas that has nowhere to go. So you're increasing the volume of water that's coming to the ground without a place to go because there are no green areas. So all this water is taken to the inadequate drainage systems that were built so many years ago. The other problem is because of poor planning or poor supervision of these buildings. A lot of these buildings have been built on major drainage channels, on top of major drainage channels. So you find you're trying to get the drainage team to declog a problem, and they'll say, well, there's a building sitting right on top of where the water should have passed. So that water now just backfills into the drainage channel. The other problem is the poor waste disposal habits of Ugandans or people living in Kampala. They're using the drainage channels like garbage disposal facilities. They dump their garbage, they dump their debris. The building sites are supposed to have hoarding to protect them, protect the area around them. They don't in a lot of cases. So you find that when it rains, the rainwater takes debris, stones and sand and everything, and dumps it into the low-lying drainage areas. And people dump all sorts of material, plastic bottles, basins, dead bodies, car parts, anything. So whenever we open the drainage channels after floods or during floods, we send our teams out to find out what the problem is. These are some of the problems. So we are trying to sensitize the public. One, don't dispose your garbage in the drainage channels. Number two, don't build on drainage channels. Number three, we need to find a way of redirecting this water. That's what our drainage engineers are doing now, trying to study Kampala to see where we can channel this water flow during the rain to areas where it should not, where it would not be a problem, and then we'll use this water to water the gardens that we're planting in the city and other things like that. But you also find that places that were swamps before, low-lying swamps like Lugogo, which was a major drainage area for the surface run of Kololo and Nakawa area, is now built up. So you find that water in that particular area fills that place when it rains. The biggest solution would be redesigning and making some of these channels bigger. It may not happen for a while, but there's a big Kampala Master Drainage Plan. So we're taking components of that and trying to see how we can incorporate it in what we have within the funds that we have.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, to the most important topic, I'm sure millions of people would want to listen to, and mostly Kampala residents. The buses finally hit the street on Monday.
Yeah.
Not because they're supposed to be on the street, but because obviously as a mitigating factor
yeah.
to the strike.
Yeah.
You reported a huge collection of about 1.3 billion today in revenue from the taxis. But you received a paltry, what, 400 million a month from UTODA?
Yeah, that's why I'm smiling, because we're getting a lot of money.
Yes, first of all, was there a problem in the beginning that now we are managing to acquire and actually bring to the KCCA coffers over $1 billion a month in revenue? Was there a problem? Should have we seen this in the past and said, wait a minute, somebody else should manage the taxi parks and the taxes and not UTODA?
In the last 3 days, as you said, we've collected about 1.3 billion shillings, which makes us very happy as a city administration. And still counting. Some of the banks have not given us their returns. We anticipate that we'll probably get about 1.5 billion for the month of February. We're also beginning to receive collections for the month of March. And if this goes on like this, then we'll have, on the average, between 1.3 and 1.5 billion shillings or more per month. Right now, some of the taxes have not come in. Obviously, there was a problem in the past. Our predecessors requested UTODA to remit 392 million shillings a month from collections from taxis. I don't know what their basis for setting this amount was, but that's the amount that they set, and that's the amount that was coming in sometimes it wasn't.
And that meant about what, 4 to 5 billion a year?
Yeah.
You're collecting over $1 billion a month?
Well,
you're looking at what, 13 billion?
Yes, going by what we've seen in the last 3 days, probably, yeah.
Let's discuss the bus issue, because the taxes is something, because I also want to ask you at one point if the taxes will actually stay in this city. But the question is, the buses hit the streets on Monday.
Yeah.
Most of the people that are passengers on these buses are asking, will the buses remain on the roads here in Kampala?
The buses will remain until we stabilize the transport sector. In the sense that the taxi, the people in the taxi industry need to get used to the fact that they have to pay a monthly fee through the bank to KCCA. And then there are other issues to do with the planning for the city transport that may have to be looked at. I don't know how long the buses are going to stay on the roads, but when they came in to address an emergency. The taxi people had threatened to strike over the amount of money, which is sad, because for the last maybe almost 20 years, Sebana Chizito mayor years, and even earlier probably, they were paying 155,000 to UTODA, which was coming to KCC then. On top of that, they were paying loading fees, welfare, stage fees, and all sorts of other fees. We did a survey before we set this amount, and we found that in some places, the taxis were paying between 400,000 and 600,000 a month to run. Now, we came up with the 155 because that's what they've been paying for close to 20 years. And they said, no, this is too much, reduce it. So our technical people and the revenue committee thought, okay, let's reduce it and see what happens. So they reduced it to 120,000, which we thought would be such a good discount. But still they did not want to pay for reasons that are various. We need revenue to run the city. We cannot provide services, we cannot do street lights, we cannot clean the city, because central government gives us a budget, and that budget has funds that are already committed to specific items. like the roads. We had 42 billion for roads, and then the job stimulus package and creation of marketplace spaces, you know, things like that that are very specific. So that's not the money we use to run services for the city. What we use to run services is revenue that we collect from the transport sector, from trade licenses, from local service tax, hotel tax, property rates, ground rent. You know, that's where we get the money to run the city. So if we don't collect money, we cannot run the city. Things like we want to fix the taxi parks. The bill I've been given is about 8 billion shillings. We need to find this money because it's not money that we budgeted for the taxi parks. So if this money comes in, then we can do good things in the city, like running these services and also taking care of our administrative costs. Yeah.
Let's take a look at the master plan for transport in the city. Is there a time when we'll have a plan of either having buses in the city, and I need to add, the trains were also hitting the rails this week, transporting people. A plan that will have rail, buses, and taxis operating, but in clustered areas and in particular areas, so that we all know that if I left my home, I can actually take a bus from point A to B, but also take a taxi from A to C. You know, is there that plan, and when do we see it in force?
There are a lot of good plans that we found that had been developed over the years, heavy investment into them. Problem is the implementation. They've not been implemented. And because they've not been implemented over so many years, the challenges, say in the transport sector, have continued to grow. So that means the solution is going to take more effort and more money and more planning. So whereas we have seen plans, and we do have plans to decongest the city, and we have routes in the city that channel traffic out to particular areas and not have everybody coming into the CBD and having zoned places for doing particular things. All those plans are there. But the implementation will take a while, and it cannot be done in one go. It has to be done in phases, so that we take care of the other issues that come up with the disorganization that has been there in the city. One of the things that we need to do is decongest the city. We started with a human decongestion on the streets so that we could clean and fix the streets. Now we're looking at decongesting, and I think part of the reason that this contract for provision of bus services was initiated by KCC then was basically to try and decongest the city, because one bus carries many more people than, say, 4 commuter
Taxis,
vans. Yes. So hopefully with time, although there's no monopoly for the buses as such, but competition, as you already see the last 3 days, prices of taxi fares have come down very significantly. So hopefully with time we'll have less and less traffic in the city, but the ultimate plan is to control how many vehicles come into the city, put a congestion charge in certain areas, convert streets to one-way in areas that have been very congested, and, you know, good plans like that.
All right. We are taking another very short break, but when we come back, we'll be discussing graft at City Hall. We're taking a very short break. Don't go away.